Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Good afternoon. I call to order the informational meeting of the City Council. It is Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. Welcome to those watching on TV, online, and all of you here in person. Thank you for coming. We will recognize who is here. Rather than doing a roll call, I'll just recognize that we have we have 6 councilors present. We have Councilor Brecky here by phone, and Councilor Sale is absent today. So with that, we're going to move on to committee and commission reports. We have one, the Urbanized Development Commission UDC meeting of Thursday, May 13th, 2021, and I will give that report very quickly. The notable items from that were the Interstate 229 Exit 3 Minnesota Avenue Interchange and Environmental Study Report was approved. There's alternate 9D was selected. I think one of the major parts of that is it's going to align a northbound exit ramp is going to align with 49th Street. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at pedestrian enhancements, and that entire interchange will be rebuilt. The next is the Interstate 229 Exit 4 Cliff Avenue Interchange. An environmental study report was also approved. Again, pedestrian enhancements, safety, more lanes. It looks like 41st Street will be realigned further to the north, and in 2022, a 5th lane will be added from 49th Street to 57th Street, and as I understand, I believe there'll probably be a stoplight right up by Lincoln High School, so that's going to make it easier for them to get in and out and make left-hand turns. So that's going to be a major redesign, and you're going to see some things moving around. Those are scheduled for, I think, about 24, 25, somewhere in that time frame preliminarily. And then also 3 letters of support were approved to be sent to the Transportation Secretary, the Federal Transportation Secretary, for Rebuilding American Infrastructure and Sustainability and Equity Grants applications, RAISE grants. And that those are for I-29, Exit 74, the 85th Street interchange that we're looking at doing, Maple Street, Park Street corridor, which is over on the east side of Sioux Falls, going out towards Brandon, I believe, and Veterans Parkway. So that's what we covered. So with that, we're going to move on to council remarks. Anyone with council remarks today?
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make everyone aware that this upcoming Thursday at the 37th Street and Minnesota Hy-Vee, Councilor Erickson and I are going to be there listening to our constituents and talking to individuals about housing and accessible opportunity housing, trying to work with our developers and the real estate world to kind of, dig into the 7,000 housing goal that we have for the next 5 years. So if you guys are able to come to that, we'd welcome you all, from architects to developers to news crews. We'd invite everyone to come to that, because it's actually something we need to focus on with all the success that we're having in the community. So if you're willing to have a conversation with us, we're going to open it up to the public, because that's probably the best way to do it as we move forward. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Others? Seeing none, we will move on to presentations. We have one presentation today, and I can't think of anything more exciting to end my term as council chair on than this item. First up is TIF Update Sharapa 2. That's presented by Dustin Powers, Community Development Coordinator, and Jeff Scherschlicht of Pendar Associates. Welcome, Dustin.
Good afternoon, Council. Dustin Powers with Planning and Development Services. Today I'm here with Jeff Scherschlicht with Pendar Properties and as well as other members of their team to share with you an exciting project that they're bringing forward in downtown Sioux Falls. Before I turn it over to Jeff, I wanted to quickly just point out 2 real bullet points of why this project is in front of you here today and what you can expect moving forward. First is a portion of this property is within the rail yard redevelopment area in downtown Sioux Falls. And if you recall from 2019, the city entered into an option to purchase agreement with Pendar Properties to sell this portion of the rail yard redevelopment, subject to a future development agreement that would come in front of the city council for approval. So again, the project being outlined today would be associated with that. The second part that we are bringing in front of you today as well is part of this project is a request for tax increment financing that would go to support the development that's going to be presented. And Jeff will highlight many of those details in his presentation. Following today's presentation, our intent would be to bring that development agreement and TIF request forward to some future city council meetings over the next couple of months for your formal consideration. So with that, I will turn it over to Jeff to give you the exciting news about the project.
Thanks, Dustin. Welcome. Thank you for taking your time this evening or afternoon, whatever it is. I'm Jeff Scherschlick, Chief Troublemaker, as you know. I don't carry much of a title anymore, but I guess I'm president of our little family development company that sits over here, folks. And you're going to see that as I get the chance to present this evening, but it's really a team of a lot of people. There's people here from ISG, there's people here from Journey Construction. You know, it's a partnership with the city. There's our development group. You know, we're proud of what we're going to bring here today. So with that, I'm going to start with the first one, which is boom. Who could forget 15 years ago? It's 15 years. It's more than 15 years, folks. That was then. And you know, 15 years ago, that was a boom that was heard around the world. We have a lot of information on that. And we think it had a little bit to do with the development of the East Bank of downtown Sioux Falls. And that was a successful public-private partnership. And ultimately, it brought a number of firsts. It was the first project where we partnered with the community and a development to start the first part of downtown riverfront redevelopment, the River Greenway. It was also the first LEED Gold certified building in South Dakota. And it was actually the first true building to turn its front to the river, which was part of our long-term goal as a community and our plan for river development. So boom, that was then, and this is now, folks. And we've been living with this now for 13 years at Sharapa. And we think, again, part of Sharapa, which we hope to use as our second development here, but Sharapa helped spawn what we believe is over $100 million worth of development. It's hard to believe, folks, when we go back, that 13 years ago, there wasn't a lumber exchange C&A building. There wasn't a Hilton Garden Inn. Raven hadn't put in $25 to $30 million updating their facility. The Arc of Dreams didn't exist there. The Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation wasn't there in the heart of our community. And ultimately, now what you see is all of those things have become a reality because of the successful public-private partnership we created back then, and that it's been the goals of the original owners of Sharapa, of which I'm just one of them, but other community leaders in this community that came together with Sharapa. We have always been committed to really deploy that zip land that we bought over 17 years ago on behalf of the community. And with that, we bought it originally for the event center that we are looking at putting downtown. We also then worked with the city at one time to design a downtown convention center because we're stewards of what is best for the community. And ultimately, when you kind of had an RFP on a downtown hotel convention center, we designed that and competed for that as well. Because again, it's all about what is best for the community. Next. You know, that is what this project is all about. That's why I'm excited to talk about this public-private partnership. You guys commissioned a study when you knew that we were finally going to get the rail yards off of the rail switch yard out of downtown. You commissioned a study back in 2016, 2017. Again, the ideas that we have for Sharapa 2 aren't really our ideas. It's the community's ideas. And we're just the ones that are hopefully going to be able to go execute it. And in that plan that is published for everybody to see, we embrace the community's visions of live, work, and play, density. And basically, we're going to talk today about TIF because density, the only way we can accomplish density today is help with all of the parking structures and et cetera that will allow us to create density. Connectivity, walkability, and hopefully you've been on the Sharapa site and are seeing rail yard flats come to fruition. You'll see that we're heavily committed to exactly all of those goals that this community has asked for of you to have done on that railroad property. Now, take a look at this, folks. For many of you, this might be the first time you've seen this image. And what's so amazing, folks, is it's so real. And what you see there, this is what's coming soon. This is the dynamic vision. This is tying in already Sharapa 1 into Sharapa 2, which is the main commercial building. But again, we're going to talk about Sharapa 2, Sharapa 3, and Sharapa 4 at all one time. But if you take a look at the way it's set up and the interconnect between the building, and that's not just an interconnect to walk on, I'll talk about that later, but it's much more a community resource. But look at how it's set up from an amphitheater type standpoint. What you'll see is you see a sign on Sharapa 1 that says Sharapa Place. And Sharapa Place was just a building. And now it's going to be truly Sharapa Place, a full work, live, and play community. The project. Folks, you know, it's hard to sometimes get spatial here to a certain degree, but if you take a look at everybody, hopefully is aware of what Sharapa 1 is. Sharapa 1 is there along the west side of the river, next to the dynamic River Greenway amphitheater. You can see that this project is going to entail Sharapa 2, which is just to the north, which is a 9-story building. Sharapa 3, which is right behind that, is an 8-story building, and Sharapa 4 is a 7-story building. In summary, this is a $160 million plus project that will all be completed in one phase. There's 130,000 square foot of office in the time when we're just coming out of the pandemic. What does that mean, folks? That's showing you, and what we're going to tell you tonight is the most exciting part is the first lead tenant of this development, but we think that we're really close to finishing and having 85 to 90% of that 130,000 filled. In the next 2 weeks, I hope to announce that. At the same time, there's 45,000 square foot of retail that activates the whole area into making it a work, live, and play environment. There's 150 apartments so that people can live there. They can walk to these. We've got some other exciting retailers that we're going to work with. And then we have 10 to 12 luxury condos on top of Sharapa 2 at the 8 and 9 story. The other thing that made Sharapa 1 successful, folks, was parking. And in this, with your assistance and the ability to do 2 major ramps and still the amount of surface parking, we will have 900 to 1,000 parking places to serve this complex. There's going to be some dynamic community spaces. You'll see that Reed Street is going through here, through the project. As you can see, that'll be walkability. That'll have the ability to close it down for events. And we're going to have some of the greatest events around this property on behalf of the community. There's a courtyard that you'll see here. It's a winter shot. That's shooting back from the east to the west. And that, again, remember that interconnect is right over the amphitheater. And that is, again, more than an interconnect I'll tell you about. At the same point, there's going to be retail, as you see here. There's going to be some activities. There's going to be entertainment. It's going to have everything that the big cities have. And what this little town that could continues to prove that it can make it happen. So with that, I want to go back to this picture because that one really turns me on. But I want to talk about that interconnect. Why? Because that's been my vision for a long time. You know, if anybody's come to Sharapa 1, we have a kind of an active conference center up on 3rd floor, and many of you might have come to meetings there, community events there, and etc. That's part of our commitment to all of this project. But here we're creating a 5,000 square foot conference center. That's what that interconnect is on behalf of the community, folks. Okay, that's going to be able to be used on the weekends and the evenings and activated. But to even make it more dynamic, that's a 5,000 square foot outdoor space deck on top of that. And it's all lined up by our brilliant, architects and engineers, that it's tied into the river greenway, it's tied into the amphitheater, it's tied into the courtyard. So again, when you look at this, this is not your standard project. This is a community project. And I will stand by that. And the only way this gets accomplished is when we partner together as a public-private partnership that makes it all become reality. So with that, okay. So folks, I've talked about building, but what I'm really most excited about, and we're waiting for them to show up, is not only the building that's going to happen here, buildings 1 or 2, 3, and 4, and $160 million, but I'm going to have the opportunity to tell you about a large corporate client that's going to bring a fintech company downtown Sioux Falls with hundreds and hundreds of high-paying jobs that is the catalyst to make this thing go forward. You all know there's been lots of projects with vision and ideas. The difference is we got the tenants that can make this happen, and it will happen, and it will happen this fall, as long as the construction costs don't throw us off. So pending our star attraction tonight, I'm just a sideshow, and I'm excited to bring you the star attraction, but in the meantime, let's go into some of the details. Financial overview. These are some of the pro forma numbers that we have been able to put together on this project. We talked about 160 million plus. You'll see how that's kind of divided up between the 3 buildings. So they all are dynamic structures in their own right. I think the thing to focus on, why you do TIF, is right now we have land that has not been activated, that we've been waiting for this opportunity for 15 years. And we also have a large parking lot that holds 350 people for Sharapa now. With that, we pay basically $50,000 of taxes on that land that's not being used in the parking lot. We have estimated that in 2040, the taxes on these 3 additional buildings are going to be $2.625 million a year coming into our coffers here. And at the same time, folks, as we talked about to begin with, it isn't just that money. Look at what happened with Sharapa 1 and all of the other development and all of the other things that came downtown. Now, it was only part of it, but I think it was a great catalyst, and it set the tone for where we were going. So basically, the other thing to take a look at, this project alone, the sales and excise tax exceeds $6.7 million. And we've calculated that based on the amount of materials and excise tax and et cetera that is applicable to this project. Next. We have also sat down with our contractors who have been, our architect and engineers and our contractors, we've been together from the beginning on this project. This isn't just a wild idea. It's been priced, it's been looked at, it's been massaged, there's still more work to do, but basically we have estimated there's $57.6 million of eligible costs for TIF. But I think the key issues are really the parkings, folks, because we cannot create the density, and you know how expensive parking ramps are, and at the same point, we've got to build 350 of those parking spaces for Sharapa, who already has a parking lot, and not generate any revenue. That makes the numbers a little tough to make work. But because we have a successful public-private partnership, we can make this work, folks. It only works through the activation of TIF. But you see, you also know, if you've been around Rail Yard, because a lot of you might not even remember Sharapa, but Rail Yard, I felt like I was Fred Flintstone, because there's all this rock and explosions, and I should have been in my little car with my legs going. But we're going to have the same thing here, folks, because this is a difficult site to work with. There's a lot of stone, but we are committed to work within that, use that stone effectively. We do have a number of spaces under ground, because that is an important feature. So with this tonight, and again, waiting to announce the big tenant that's there, and the reason that he's not here is they have a meeting going on. 1 minute away? Great. So we're going to get there because I'm really excited about that. But we're asking to partner with the city. We've been working with Dustin and Jeff and the administration to pre-negotiate how this would be used, how this would be, work into the project, how our numbers don't work without this. Sometimes I feel guilty to come up here. I got to be honest, I'm not a beggar. I get where sometimes things go, but to be honest, folks, this is the public-private partnership that makes this work. And this activates hundreds of high-paying jobs. It activates a development that is going to really put Sioux Falls on the next level. And what we do, what I think you know, is we will make it happen. With this, let's take a look at the milestone dates for a minute. So basically, we are prepared. We got to get our architectural plans to the next level to get the final pricing. But, again, Journey's been adding price, millions of dollars to the project weekly. I don't even like to take their calls anymore because I just know I got to add more money to the project and et cetera. But this is the timeline. But with that, and without further ado, and can we go back on the slides here? As I said, folks, I am very excited. It's not just these images and the plan that we bring here today, but we're really here and excited to introduce you to the dynamic tenant that really makes this happen, that activates this whole vision, and they get it. They love the live, work, and play, but I really don't want to take any more away from them. I want them to tell you about their business, what this means to them, and what this means to Sioux Falls and downtown. With that, I want to introduce Greg Gary, COO of The Bank Corp.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. We were trying to time everything up so we could tell our employees about it right before we came here. And they were so excited that what we thought was 15 minutes turned into 45 of questions. I bailed on them and I ran. So here we are. Bancorp, which has been part of the community for over a decade and a half. Very few people know who we are, but we are one of the largest fintech partner banks in the country. We do more money movement than most of the banks you've ever heard of. And we're probably, I think, 6th right now in the country behind all of your globals on basically the East and West Coast. And then it's Bancorp, which is based in Wilmington, Delaware. And then we are down at 69th and Western right now in the Old Village complex. Or as we normally have to describe it to people, that big building next to McNally's parking lot? Go there, right? And the fact that I have to describe where we're at by the proximity to a bar is something that we're trying to overcome with joining Jeff and team for this kind of development and moving into this space. We're talking about creating a high-end workspace for our employees and for the different things that we do here. It's not traditional banking. You're not going to come get a car loan or a home loan from us. We focus on partnering with other financial technology companies and wealth managers to basically deliver their products to the marketplace. So I won't bore anyone with a lesson in banking and how we make money off the spread between deposits and loans, but a little bit of a reference for you there as to some of our businesses. If you go to the next slide, please. So these are our partners. Some of them you'll see, Visa, MasterCard. We're some of the largest debit card players in the country, larger than our other competitor here in Sioux Falls that has a little bit more of a brand name because they do more retail or used to do more retail banking. But we're actually about 1/3 larger than those guys. Based here in Sioux Falls, these are the companies that we work with. These are the companies that we visit when we go to San Francisco and Manhattan and Brooklyn, when we go to Atlanta and we go to Austin, Texas. And these are the companies that come and visit us. Right now, taking them to Sioux Falls generally involves a drive down Minnesota to a suburb in southern a suburban office setting in southern Sioux Falls and a hotel, right? What we want to do with this project is really showcase Sioux Falls and everything that the downtown community brings and the broader community brings when we have people from, Visa and MasterCard coming to town. When we have, and you might not be familiar with some of these names, these are the largest fintech players in the country. And this is really what is displacing banking. What the team brought together with ISG, with Pendar Properties, is really a vision of what happens in Austin, what happens in Atlanta, what happens to maybe a smaller scale in Brooklyn when they're building these things out. And this gives us an opportunity to look like our clients and for them to say, wow, this is something different. This is something that we don't normally see. And so we're really excited about what we're able to do here. Go to the next one. Thank you. A little bit about where we're at here, a couple more stats. I won't go through this, but we're mainly an East Coast bank, but Sioux Falls is our second largest location. Right now we have about 175 employees here in Sioux Falls. This building gives us an initial ability to grow that out to north of 225, as much as 250. These are high-paying jobs here. We're usually talking about technology, information security. We're talking about data science. We're talking about money laundering, or anti-money laundering, I should say. We do try to catch the criminals. We don't actually launder the money. I think that's an important clarification for everybody. And many, many more things, right? Compliance, relationships. We are really big in our space that no one's ever heard of, and we think this project gives us a launch pad for really being that employer first look. You know, we continue to focus on trying to draw people back into the community, keep younger people here. This live, work, play environment that mixes the condos with the retail, with the bar and restaurant scene, along with office, we think does that for us and gives us that advantage when people are flying in. They see our building when they fly in or when they drive in, and when they meet their friends, they come to a restaurant down in this complex. So I think that's really exciting for us. The next one there. And then if you're not familiar with us, these are just some of the awards that we get. So we're part of S&P 600. Again, if you don't go to the McNally's parking lot, you probably don't know who we are, but that's a pretty big deal. Fortune ranked us the 28th fastest growing company last year, so that's pretty exciting as well. And we also, that third one from the top center there, we always focus on equal opportunity, bringing in a more diverse workforce into our company as well, and that's been recognized. A couple other smaller things that I'm not going to bother your time with, but we're doing some really special things as an organization. I think this really is a launching pad for our next steps here. Next one, please. Questions on that? Otherwise, I'll turn it back to Jeff.
We'll go back to Jeff and we'll just wait for questions at the end.
Great.
If you're okay?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great, thank you.
So Greg is my straight man. We've been together a number of times now, so we got to act. So if you really want us to do it, we can put it on. But folks, isn't that exciting? So now you see why I can get so excited, not just about the pretty pictures, but what this means in bringing that high-quality employer downtown, with bringing in the new higher-paid jobs. You know, we need that mix, you know, the Amazons and the CF Foods, but we also need to serve our downtown, and we have to have that financial services part. As I said, I get to be the spokesman, because they know I'm full of shit, kind of, you know, when it comes down to it. But ultimately, folks, what I have here is a power team, and it's the power of the private side of this development. So you see here, I got my partners here with Elgithan Capital Management, an established firm here in Sioux Falls, and we're really the general partners putting the deal together, raising the finances, you know, negotiating all the deals and bringing this home to a successful project. At the same time, all these beautiful images have been created by ISG. They're really an advanced regional firm that has been key to helping this get to where it is, folks. They were the ones that pushed me to kind of put this vision together. What I didn't know is how beautiful they could make it look, because that's also what turns on the tenants when it comes down to it. And then we have Journey Construction, which you're all aware of. Stable, local, quality contractor. So you start to see the pieces all comes together. But I did get a packed house of my team here tonight, as well as my development team, my family, my daughter Ann, and the rest of them. You know, we can make this happen, folks. You don't have to be large. You just have to be passionate, and you have to pull together the resources to make it happen. After Grade's speech, I was going to go boom too, because I think the impact of bringing them downtown and bringing those jobs to downtown is just like that boom we heard 15 years ago. So in closing, I request the council's support for our grand vision, to approve the TIF that we've done, work with our public partnership to come together, who have been wonderful to work with and special. I guess we've got the video going, which I think you could all take a look at. We have proven we can execute this. You know of our reputation. The private and the public are ready, and I've always used the term, let's get her done. So thank you for your time. We're prepared to answer questions, both Greg and I. Let's finish the video, and then we'll answer questions. At one point, we designed the skating rink and link, or the whole thing in there, but obviously we took that out after the announcement of the Jacobson Plaza. But take a look, you can see that there's a complement, there's that interconnect that we've talked about where you think is so dominant or dynamic. You know, and again, don't you see that we're activating what has already been built, the commitment of the community to the River Greenway. You know, we really are leveraging that as well as the courtyard to really activate the work living plan. Thank you, ISG. Very well done. Again, folks, questions?
All right, let's open it up to Jeff, Greg, or anyone on this team. Counselor Erickson.
I don't have any questions, but as always, you're always so dynamic. And one of the things I appreciate about you the most is that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And that confidence for me is key, knowing that should this TIF pass the council, which I would hope it would, just knowing that you're going to follow through is really great for our community, knowing that this project will happen and it won't just be a pipe dream, so to speak. So I appreciate you being here and going through all of this. I know you and your team have taken a lot of time to meet with counselors individually to make sure that we had all the information that we needed prior to this as well. And so I'm excited for your project. I'm excited for this downtown district to continue to take off. And sir, thank you for your investment in the downtown area and coming down too. It's awesome to hear that your employees are excited as well, and we'll just continue to see the downtown area continue to grow, and maybe people will know where you're at now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? Yeah, you can't be, let's not be too bashful.
Left him speechless.
Okay, we'll go to Counselor Kiley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I heard you correctly. This is not happening in phases.
No. Two reasons. Number one
Can we just, would you mind just talking at the mic? That way everybody can hear you.
We might have to
Sorry
chain you
about
two
that.
down.
You know, a couple of reasons. Number one, the tenant, you know, is really looking to get in there in June of 2023. One. Two, we think it's to the advantage of the whole project not to have it, you know, that they're going to get into their building and then another building's going to be built. It's going to be disruption for 5 to 10 years. And three, in order to generate that kind of TIF, we need to get them all built and get the tax dollars coming in to retire that TIF debt. So that's the reason why we like to do it all once. But you see, the key was putting together the commercial side of it, because what I can tell you is historically, you can look at Sioux Falls' multifamily occupancy rate is 95%. Ultimately, we are activating rail yard flats right now, and my gals have rented 45% of the units out of 41 units in the middle of a construction zone. I don't know how people can even imagine moving or thinking about it, and pretty soon it's going to get more prettier and prettier. That's the confidence I have in this beautiful city.
The return on investment as well, if you could address that a little bit more. I know that you hit on it, but the property tax payment currently,
Yes.
$50,000.
Yes.
Estimated taxes, tax payments in 2040, I believe, was over 2.6.
Yes, sir.
City and state sales taxes, we have additional 6.7, nearly $7 million.
Just from the construction project, correct.
All right, very good. I appreciate the presentation. Appreciate the number of quarters that it must have required that you put in him prior to this. Good job. He's very well animated.
You don't see the shock collar under my shirt here. If I'd have gone too long, I was going to start to go like this. Thanks, Rich.
Counselor Starr.
Yes, thank you. Talk little bit about the pricing for the 12-unit condos and how that kind of fits into what scale, maybe square footage and that part of it.
The condos are really small percentage of this project. So of the 160 millions, we would the construction and then ultimately the final sale would be in the $10 million range is what we're talking about. So really a very small percentage. So unlike, I think, some of the other TIF projects you looked at and maybe struggled with. So we think it's an important feature to add to the work, live, and play. We think there's an opportunity, to be honest, there's some of me that says it's a little bit difficult to deal with, but we think it's important because, again, I also believe that, we vision, we're going to have nicer apartments behind there, but we're also going to build what we call more micro units too, so that they're going to be affordable for a broad range of the people that work in these offices and people that want to live downtown. So again, I think if we have the Carpenter Building downtown, we have the Edge on the, kind of the right down near downtown that we redid. It's a mix. So we're excited to bring that mix to the community. So hopefully you'll accept that we do have those, but it is a small percentage.
Perfect. And if I can, Mr. Chair, I had a couple more questions for Bancorp. If I can, I don't want to let you off the, it's not that I want to let you off the hook. I want you to brag a little bit. I mean, you've probably had to keep this quiet.
This is punishment for showing up 15 minutes late.
You haven't even heard me start yet.
okay.
So I'm,
All
no.
right.
This is good because I want to hear, because what we do as elected officials, we talk about bringing good paid jobs to Sioux Falls all the time. So talk a little bit more about your existing workforce and what you mean to the community in payroll or some way of measuring it compared to where that will be eventually. Because I got to see.
Yeah, so in general, excluding executive pay, we're usually around that $75,000 a person. 95% of them are, 4-year degreed positions. And that's only really growing as we see more and more people. It's sort of a niche industry, but we're the largest player in it here in Sioux Falls and in the country. And so what we find is that we actually have competing financial institutions in financial technology or fintechs coming to town just to coax away our employees. So we need that, we sort of sit as that top of the funnel for, recruitment and development here in Sioux Falls, along with a couple of others. And that sort of just spurs off smaller businesses, smaller offices in the location. The other thing that we think that we bring to this is when you bring really large companies that are, funded by venture capital or profitable, or they're frankly coming from, high-cost metro areas, and they see the quality of living and the quality of work that we deliver for them, we think it gives them a second look at saying, hey, do we want to be in this space as well? And so there's a longer-term multiplier effect of showcasing the community and it being more than a trip from the airport to the hotel to the office in the suburb.
Well, and the quality of the drive, because we're in that process of the Minnesota Avenue corridor definitely needing the improvement and the image that it portrays to some of our largest institutions.
Absolutely, and I think this gives us an ability to showcase all of the investment that you guys have made. We know you're doing another $10 million across the river from us now. You've probably invested north of $40 million up to this point, and we want to take advantage of that. I mean, it's a return on investment for what you've done already. But we really think, I grew up in Madison. I've lived in Sioux Falls for almost 2 decades now. This is home, right? And as we continue to grow, we're a publicly traded company. I don't want to have to grow those jobs out east if I can bring them home here first. But the thing is we're going to fill those jobs. So if we can't find the talent here in Sioux Falls, if we can't draw them into the workplace, we're going to hire them in Raleigh and in Wilmington and Philadelphia and in New York. And I'd prefer if we could do it here to support this business.
Nope, totally makes sense. The only thing, here's the punishment part for being a couple minutes being late.
I'm the chief operating officer. I deal with punishment all day, so this will be easy.
No, I would just say that I've never negotiated across the table for Mr. Scherschlick, but I would have negotiated a better deal for signage. Your signage is kind of small.
Didn't I?
It looks small from the.
Well, I think I've still got to.
We'll put it on the roof so that you were talking about the flyover part of it and identifying the building.
Yeah, so
there we go.
I thought we were doing pretty well. So in the future, the goal is when people say, "Oh, where's this at?" It's like, "Oh, it's by the Bancorp building, not by the McNally's parking lot." We want to reverse that trend and be the anchor that draws people to it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thank you for the investment.
Again, folks, remember they're the ones that really made it happen. Because we've been very quiet about this project because we really wanted to bring that ingredient so that we knew it was real. And I'm so happy and I'm so proud. The other thing is when you looked at all those names that he showed that come into town to visit them, I'm going to work them and bring some of them here over the next decade. Just you watch.
Let's make it their second visit.
Huh?
Make it their second visit to town.
There you go.
Councilor Jensen, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, when I came and visited with you, Sharapa 1, you had that 13 years ago. We did a TIF for that. The city partnered with you.
Yep.
Tell me about the taxes before that was developed and then thereafter. And you can ballpark it, but I think you said it was something about like 43,000
Yeah, if
per
that,
year.
if that.
And then now it's like $454,000 per year going to tax revenue.
It is. And you know what? It might have been $40,000 back then, but we couldn't collect from all the pigeons and rats. So it was really a bad deal, you know? So within that, today they're over $450,000 on Sharapa. I think, unfortunately, we missed the opportunity because of COVID, but you were going to talk about that was a successful TIF because it got paid off in 13 years. And so that means that the city and the community gathered that revenue for the next 7 years as well. So that just goes again to, I think, our public-private partnership. And it worked, folks. And all I do is ask, this one's a little bigger, but this is also a lot bigger project when it comes down to it. And it really is funding the parking. But you are correct, and those are the numbers that we were talking about.
That's right. I think this is one of the coolest projects we'll get to talk about for the next couple of years, and here's why. Is because now that $40,000 of tax revenue now is up to $450,000 worth of tax revenue for the schools, for the community, for our ability to keep taxes a little bit lower on people that can't afford it. So it's a really big win for the city of Sioux Falls, and I want everyone to understand that this is a private-public partnership, but some of the best public investment that's happening here is going to be into our schools, into our infrastructure, into our public safety, and you should be really thanked for that, and I hope that everyone else supports it and sees that that's what you're creating here with the help of your partners, with the help of the construction sales tax that's going to go into the community. I mean, this thing is way bigger than we can comprehend, I guarantee it. But this is, and someone came up to me today and, asked, they didn't really have a plan laid out. You have a plan laid out for how you want to ask us to partner with our with these public funds. You have a well laid out plan. You've started to implement the plan. It's a clear vision. We know exactly what you're going to do with these funds, and that's how we should utilize the taxpayers' dollars in this exact way. Now, if everyone, started to work under that operation, we could maybe fund a few more funds out there. But that, sir, is a great presentation. I'm excited to support it and see this thing come to fruition. So, thank you.
Boom, 3. Thank you. Again, we didn't even calculate all of the retail sales that are going to come out of this facility and the tax revenue that's going to come out of that, the restaurants and the bars and the employment. I mean, there's so much, but it's so cool. Folks, it's hard to, a week ago, you had the Sioux Steel presentation. We're talking about 2 really transformational projects. That's the confidence that we have in this community. It's because of leaders like you. It's the people that came before us that knew what to do to make this little town make it happen. We should all be proud. And when we talk about what we're doing here, remember this is our plan. It's not my plan. It's our plan. That's what even makes it better. Thank you.
Councilor Kiley.
Thank you. I'm very happy that Councilor Jensen brought up our past, which is actually a very lucrative part of our present, and that is Sharapa Place, Sharapa 1. Because you do have a history in this community, a proven history, a very positive proven history, which really makes my point even better than what I was trying to do earlier with the return on investment here. It just goes to show that your estimate of what it is today versus what it'll be in 2040 is just not something that you're just throwing out there. You have a history of proving that. And so I'm very, very happy to see this coming forward. Very surprised, quite frankly, that it's coming forward this soon. I mean, just imagine where we were at 15 months ago. And I think one of the best phrases I've heard, or sentences I heard this afternoon is I don't want to grow those jobs out east. Wow, I wrote that down. That's great. This is going to benefit the city of Sioux Falls, and I appreciate that. And by the way, I did not know that McNally's was located near you.
We'll get better signage.
No question we will.
I want to give, I know she's under the weather, but I want to see if Counselor Brecky on the phone has any comments or questions.
I would just, add my 2 cents to what everybody else has already said. I mean, this is an extremely exciting project and an extremely exciting time to be in a leadership position with the city of Sioux Falls. With both of these on the horizon, it's truly going to change not only the look of Sioux Falls when you think of it, of how it's going to look when you look back, when you stand in the tower on Falls Park and look back over our city, but we are really becoming a city now, and these are the 2 projects that are going to catapult us into that position. So, yeah, I, like everyone else, am just very excited, and there's a level of trust there with Mr. Scherschleck and his team because he's proven that he can do this, and so we take him on his word because he has such a strong history with us and with the city of Sioux Falls. So in these public-private partnerships. So thank you so much, Jeff, for having faith in the community, faith enough to risk it in dollars and cents on behalf of the whole community. And so I look forward to you bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you, Counselor. Let's move on to Counselor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, a repeat of the thank yous. I mean, thank you for your enthusiasm, your work, your presentation, your confidence in the city. You have done it before. You'll do it again. I had a quick question about, so when you talk about some of these numbers, taxes and that, and what it's going to come down to in 20 years and that, as far as workforce, maybe we talked about this and I missed it a bit, but what all has Sharapa 1 added already to workforce? What is this going to add for workforce? Do we have general ideas and numbers, or is it just too hard to?
Again, Greg already has some workers in Sioux Falls, so we're not adding 225 new workers, but he's talking about 50, 75 over the next decade at a minimum new. I believe the key tenants that we are dealing with are all putting their space. So if I just took 25% of that space, let's just say 30 to 35,000 square foot of space, it probably means somewhere in the 200 range of a new, higher paying jobs at a minimum that would be going in on some of the tenants that are down there. Now, again, some of those could be completely new too, so it's a little hard to completely put our finger on, but we know that we're getting growth-oriented businesses. One of the things that even our discussion with Greg would be that if they didn't make this move and commit, they could have downsized here and those jobs could have been replaced in the east. So I think the impact of that is really quite great. And folks, I just think we all read of what's going on in the world right now and in the United States. Sioux Falls is going to show that it's a little big city. And we're already doing so many good things and all of our services and our quality education and our infrastructure. This, though, really will be high profile that I think will raise us up and bring even more the quality jobs for downtown to keep our downtown vibrant, because we know, in a sense, Citibank is out on they didn't come downtown. Midland National Life left downtown. I'm a downtown rat, I called myself, and I think that the core of our community is vital. And look at the life that we've created down there with the Levitt and the State Theater and the bars and the restaurants and the housing that's going on. But we still need that base of those large employers that bring in hundreds and hundreds of people every single day.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight, just talking about that on top of these numbers that we're talking about that are significant. So, yeah, again, thank you. And it's going to be so much fun to see this downtown develop as it does in the next few years for projects like this. So, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like I get the honor of closing this out. Just a couple of thoughts, and I've mentioned this to you. I sat on the RFP, the original Rail Yard RFP years ago, and I was so excited and hoping this would come forward. And The challenge at the time was, and the challenge we put out to anybody who wanted to propose was, this is a once in literally almost 100-year event. We've obtained all these acres of land in the heart of downtown. We don't want to mess this up. We've got one shot at this. So we want something visionary and we want something big. We don't just want to just do a couple-story apartment and just, and waste that opportunity. And that's what this is. This is visionary and it's big. And every time I look at Sharapa, I just marvel at the architecture. And when I bring, people to town, it's one of the things that I'll show them, the Arc of Dreams, and I'll say, look at how gorgeous this building is. And you've got the track record of getting it done. You're going to get it done again. We asked for things like walkability, mixed use. All of those things are integrated here, and how it's going to integrate with the River Greenway, where it's going to be very, very cohesive. It reminds me a lot of San Antonio and its Riverwalk. So it's going to be really, really a great thing. We need more parking. That's how you support density. We don't have the capacity right now to do parking. We can do a ramp every so many years. We just got done building a ramp. So even in the best of circumstances, we'd probably be a decade or more out before we would have the capacity in that enterprise to build another ramp. So there's only one way to get this done, and that's to partner and to do this TIF. And you've shown, and I've talked to people about TIF, that the big thing is you can't look at it in the short term. You're foregoing a little bit of tax revenue for decades and decades and decades of all of this additional tax revenue where it's going to come back, which is why in cases like this, it's the but-for test. Without this TIF, could you do this? No. And so this is where it's a win-win for everyone. You're the only person who could do what you can do here because you have control and you have these relationships with all of this land that's next door. If anybody else came in, they wouldn't be able to do that sort of thing. So, and maybe the last thing I wanted to point out was, sometimes people say, why do you focus, when they say to us, why do you focus so much on downtown? What about everything else? What people need to understand, and Councilor Jensen made reference to this, when all of that multiplier effect occurs and we're taking in all of that extra property tax and sales tax, that goes into our general fund and our capital fund, which is used throughout the city. That means more parks, that means more infrastructure, more roads. Everybody benefits because we have more tax dollars that we can invest throughout the city. So it benefits everyone. So anyway, it's incredibly exciting. Thank you for making the investment, and we know you're going to get it done. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, folks. I certainly want to point out again, Dustin and Jeff, your team, and how helpful they've been. Obviously, the mayor, Erica, the whole group has been very supportive all the way along. Again, it is a true partnership. We are servant leaders. You see my team out here, they care, and we will all make it happen, not just me. Thank you for your support. Let's get her done. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to look for, we need to do public comment first. Anyone who'd like to speak on anything we talked about today, feel free to come forward. Welcome. You just identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Alex Hallback. Jeff doesn't know that I was gonna come tonight, but I'm a partner at Cutler Law Firm just across the river from the site of where this will be built at. And I will tell you, as a downtown employer that is struggling on a very regular basis to hire employees, a project like this will help us attract more employees to downtown. These are the type of projects, these are the quality of projects that young employees, people that I'm trying to pull out of law schools across the country, these are the type of environments that they want to live in. They're gonna live in one of his buildings and walk across the river to work for me, right? But for projects like this, of this quality and of this caliber, these are what that just takes Sioux Falls to the next level. And so, as a downtown employer, I'm so thankful that Jeff and his team have put together a project like this, because this helps us across the river recruit employees, bring new people to Sioux Falls, give them a place to live in an environment that they want to be in. Otherwise, we lose them to Austin, Texas. We lose them to San Francisco. We lose them to Chicago and these other larger markets. Let's let Sioux Falls be that larger market where people want to be, and projects like this do that. Now, you guys mentioned an interesting employer, Midland National, which, as you guys knew, as many of you know, were in the downtown Sioux Falls for a while, and the city of Sioux Falls at the time didn't help them build a parking ramp downtown. Didn't help them with parking that they needed to keep that headquarters downtown. So they're in southern Sioux Falls. Let's not make that mistake a second time by letting a project like this go, because the city is not willing to partner with a local developer to make sure those jobs stay in the core. Because I think Midland would be in a new building downtown if that council would have made the decision at the time. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Others? Seeing none, thanks again, everyone, for being here. I'm going to look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make
Yes.
a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel or reviewing communications from legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, parent 3.
Second.
Motion to enter executive session made by Erickson, seconded by Jensen. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes,
Philbrook?
Yes.
Star?
that passes 7-0. We are now entering executive session. If we could clear the room, thank you very much.